Did you know that the cost of pet ownership in the United States is currently estimated to be multiple thousands of dollars per year? It's 2025 and most people still don't. In my real-life job as a veterinarian specializing in neurology, I routinely meet with clients who are totally blindsided by the cost of vet care. Hey everyone, Dr. Cellini here, and today we're talking about something every pet owner or future pet owner needs to know, and that is the real cost of owning a pet. Whether you're thinking about adopting a dog, cat, or even an exotic pet, it's important to understand the financial commitment involved here. From food and toys to vet bills and emergencies, pet ownership can add up very quickly and oftentimes unexpectedly. So in this video, we're going to break down all the different costs of owning and caring for a pet so that you can plan ahead and give your pet the best care and best life you possibly can. We'll start with initial costs at adoption or purchase, then we'll list recurring costs like food, breed-specific costs, preventative medical care, and finally, emergency medical care. We'll finish the video by going over some tips that you can use to actually save money on pet care. But before I do that, guys, as always, if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button to help me grow the channel and get this information to as many people as possible. Okay, let's get started. First, let's talk about the initial costs of bringing a pet home in the way of adoption or purchase fees. These are the one-time expenses that you'll need to budget for. Adopting from a shelter typically costs between about $50 and $500, depending on two major factors: your geographical area and how much preventative care is included with that fee. As an example, the RISPCA, that's the Rhode Island Society for the Prevention and Cruelty of Animals, has a puppy adoption fee of $450. You may think that's pretty steep, but that includes a whole dearth of preventative care like vaccines, microchipping, and spay-neuter surgery. I'd actually consider that pretty good value, all things considered, especially since spay-neuter surgery is included in that. Some rescues like this one, the Animal Humane Society that is based in Minnesota, will include things like 30 days of pet insurance, follow-ups with local vets, and a 60-day return period. Most shelters will list these fees on their websites, and from what I've seen, are pretty transparent about things. If not, it's always something you can ask. The take-home message here is that adoption from a shelter or a humane society is not free by any means, but it does oftentimes include important pet health care. It's also generally much lower cost than the other option, which is buying a pet from a breeder. This is where costs can really get up there because you're paying for a lot of animal husbandry and medical care ahead of time, and in many cases you're paying for a quote-unquote premium brand of dog. As an extreme example, extreme being the operative word, the cost of a French bulldog, the nation's most popular breed, from a breeder can be upwards of $5,000 to $10,000 depending on what attributes you're looking for. In case you're wondering who would pay that much, well, apparently a lot of people, since the breed is the most popular breed in the United States. And when it comes to buying dogs, you'd like to think you get what you pay for, but that just isn't always the case. I've made a deep dive video about specifically Frenchies previously. Go check that out for a full review, a deep dive on all of their health issues. But suffice it to say, the actual breed you are buying matters just as much, if not more, than anything else. If you're buying from a trendy, high-demand breed, you're going to probably pay a premium for no reason other than supply and demand forces. And if a breeder tells you the reason their puppy costs $10,000 is because of how much health care they need ahead of time, that should send off alarm bells in your head saying, hey, this breed may not be all that healthy to begin with. There's a reason it costs that much. Now, I mentioned this previously, but whether you adopt or buy from a breeder, if your pet isn't already fixed, they'll need this sometime in the first 6 to 18 months of their lives. This varies a lot in cost. For instance, a neuter is way cheaper than a spay surgery because it's a lot more simple and quick. Female dogs, larger dogs, and those who are in heat will be a much more expensive spay than smaller dogs that are not in heat. But overall, a placeholder cost of about $200 to $800 is probably good here. Puppies and kittens need a series of shots, which can cost anywhere between about $25 to $200, depending on where you get them done. The cheapest and the fastest way I've seen is through pop-up vaccine clinics at places like Petco. I used to actually work at these back when I worked in Chicago. Other companies like VIP Pet Care will have vaccine clinics at places like Pet Supplies Plus or Tractor Supply stores. These are all readily available, very cost-effective ways of getting a vet to give your pet a vaccine. The final upfront costs are the fun things that you can use to deck out your pet's living area, or in the case of my dog Bernie, the floor. This includes stuff like a bed, crate, leash, collar, food bowls, toys, and more. Expect to spend somewhere around $100 to $500 up front on this stuff. So all total, for initial upfront costs, I think about $1,500 to $2,000 for adoption. And for purchase, I'd say that plus the purchase price of the dog. I'll tell you though what doesn't cost anything, and that is hitting that like and subscribe button. The most important thing to realize here is that recurring costs are going to scale with two things. Number one, the size of your pet, and number two, the extent to which they have extreme features. Let's get into some recurring costs and I'll explain what I mean. The first recurring cost is going to be food. Every dog needs to eat food every day. Shocking, I know. That's why you come here for high-level information like that. Dry kibble pet food from reputable brands like Hills can cost $20 to $80 per month depending on the dog's size. Now, as you can imagine, a 150-pound Mastiff is going to eat way more than a 3-pound teacup Yorkie. But let's dig into this just a little bit. This 15-pound bag of adult large breed dog food costs $45. Using the extremes as an example here, a 160-pound dog would consume 760 grams of this food per day. A 15-pound bag is 6,803 grams. Thank you very much, Google. Therefore, a 160-pound dog is eating 11% of this bag every single day. 11% of $45 is right at about $5 per day. Now let's compare the other extreme, say a 5-pound dog eating the same brand's small and mini maintenance diet. This 15.5-pound bag costs, let's call it $54. A 5-pound dog daily serving of food is 60 grams, so this represents 0.88% of the bag. 0.88% times $54 is 48 cents per day. So using this specific brand of dog food, a 160-pound dog consumes $5 per day worth of food, and a 5-pound dog consumes 47 cents per day worth of food. Now there is a bit of economy of scale happening here. The larger 160-pound dog is 32 times heavier than a 5-pound dog, but cost-wise is only eating at about 10 times more per day. So it's not a total linear increase, but nevertheless, the cost of food is around 10 times as much in the giant breed dog. Kibble, by the way, is going to be the cheapest option. If you go the fresh food route, it's probably going to be way higher than that from what I could tell. Here's a couple tables showing cost breakdown by breed for a popular fresh food brand called the Farmer's Dog. Now, I've not confirmed this information, but here are two websites that have reportedly researched these costs. And as you can see, they each found pretty similar results. And also, as you can see, the costs here are way higher than the Hills Kibble example, but please verify this info on your own. Also, this is not an endorsement of Hills per se or Farmer's Dog. I'm just using them as examples. Let's move on to preventative care. This includes stuff like flea and tick prevention, heartworm medication, annual checkups, and yes, periodic vaccines, all the stuff that Dr. Judy Morgan and Andrew Jones tell you to be afraid of. A rough guide here is to plan for somewhere between $400 to $500 per year. Again, the size of the dog comes into play. You can see on Chewy.com, the cost of 6 months worth of HeartGuard goes up by dog size. Grooming, depending on your pet's breed, grooming can cost $30 to $100 or more per session. Again, larger dogs are going to take longer because they have more body surface area. They consume more water, shampoo, and electricity from the hairdryer to groom. Here's where the extreme features come in a bit. If you have, say, an English Bulldog or a Shar-Pei or some similar shaped dog with lots of skin rolls over their head and body, they're going to need those kept clean as much as possible, which takes time both on your part and consumes cleaning products like wipes and shampoos, and this is all added cost. And finally, toys and accessories, the fun stuff. Pets need mental stimulation and exercise, obviously, so budget $10 to $30 per month for toys and treats, or more if you're hiring dog walkers or signing them up for doggy daycare and other activities like that. So guys, all in here for food, preventative care, grooming, toys, and playtime. We're in the neighborhood of about $500 to upwards of $3,000 per year, based again on dog size, conformation, and probably your geographical area too, as well as how bougie the dog toys are. Now let's talk about the unexpected cost, and that is medical care and emergencies, where guys like me come in. These are often the most expensive part of pet ownership, and sometimes they are the hardest to plan for. First, let's discuss things like accidents and injuries. Emergency vet visits these days are a lot. There's no two ways to parse that. Just walk into a veterinary ER and have a doctor examine your pet. That's going to cost $250 right off the bat. Baseline blood work and an IV catheter with IV fluids placement on the spot, and you're at around $700 by about 5 minutes into this visit. Chest x-ray, $300 minimum. Abdominal ultrasound, $400 minimum. CT scan, $2,000. MRI, $3,000. These are just the diagnostics, and we haven't even gotten to treatment and hospitalization yet. For example, here's an invoice for a recent MRI and back surgery I did on a dog. It's a lot. I've seen many dogs who are super sick require over $20,000 worth of intensive care that lasts a few days in the hospital. You get the idea. Now, moving on from the acute and sudden stuff, we are into the more chronic conditions, things like epilepsy, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, stuff like that can require less immediate all-at-once sort of therapy, but a large amount of ongoing diagnostic monitoring and treatment, which can easily cost over $2,000 or much more a year. Here's again where dog size comes into play. Take, for example, this commonly used seizure medication called levetiracetam, or Keppra. You can see here from onlinepharmacychewy.com, the tablets are 45 cents each. A giant breed epileptic dog will take somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 12 of these tablets per day, every single day. A 40-pound dog will take about 2 tablets a day. Many dogs I worked with in my real-life job need 2 to 4 seizure medications given to them each and every day, so you get the idea of how this can scale. If we're going to set aside money per year for medical emergencies and long-term care, I would probably earmark about $10,000 liquid cash ready to deploy for such an event. I know it seems like a lot, but that's really what it takes these days. It might be a good idea to keep this in a high-yield savings account earning around 4% interest. That way it's generating $400 a year or so, and if you don't need it, you got all your money still. I always recommend setting up an emergency fund, or if you don't have that level of savings, consider pet insurance to help cover these unexpected expenses. Bear in mind, almost every pet insurance company requires you to pay the vet first and then they reimburse you, so you'll still need the cash on hand to take care of the emergency. The exception being Trupanion, they actually cover costs up front, and that's why I generally recommend them, and they're one of my favorite companies. And no, unfortunately, we vets cannot do things for free. This care is super expensive to provide. I've covered this in previous videos. There is no Medicaid or Medicare involved in vet world, and doing things for free will tank a vet hospital in record time, removing the entire service to begin with. So to summarize our 3 levels of pet costs, I mentioned mostly dogs, but you can apply this to cats and exotics as well. We have upfront costs, adoption being around $1,000 to $2,000, whereas purchase from a breeder, we're going to be in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $10,000, depending on breed and how designer you're going for here. For the record, no, I do not recommend buying a designer dog breed. Maintenance costs, I'm going to go ahead and earmark around $1,000 to $3,000 per year for this, for routine maintenance care, food, and enrichment. Remember, smaller dogs cost less on average. For medical emergencies and long-term care, I would earmark about $10,000 here in preparation for something bad happening. Hopefully it never does, and you can just keep this money and everything's fine, but it might happen. And remember, these are just estimates. Your vet will always provide you with a cost estimate ahead of time, and if they don't, always ask. And finally here, guys, let's talk about some ways that you can actually save money here. Here's some tips for saving money while still providing excellent care for your pet. The first thing I generally recommend is to adopt, don't shop. Adoption fees are usually lower than buying from a breeder, and many shelters include vaccinations and spay-neuter within that fee, so you get a lot with that initial upfront. Or like me, you can just find Bernie in an Arroyo in Albuquerque and you pay $0 in adoption fees. I got pretty lucky though. Bernie's a cool dude. Whether you adopt or buy from a breeder, try to avoid pets with extreme features. The more extreme, the higher the average cost to maintain. That's nature probably trying to tell us something. Some good examples include extreme brachycephalic breeds like English and French bulldogs and pugs, basically any flat-faced breed, as they're called. These dogs are bred with inherent malformations that certain people label as a breed standard and normal, but they are in fact maladies, and they require varying degrees of medical care and therefore cost. Also, try to avoid size extremes. A 1-pound teacup Yorkie is going to be highly difficult to perform medical care for should something happen. Conversely, a 180-pound Newfoundland is likely to suffer a shortened lifespan and chronic disease like arthritis at middle age, greatly impacting their mobility and requiring tons of vet visits and therefore cost. A dog that big is also next to impossible to help walk around if they can't stand up. Also, invest in preventative care. Regular checkups and preventative medication can save you money in the long run by avoiding costly treatments. Also, it helps to keep your dog active, moving, and avoiding unnecessary weight gain by watching their calorie consumption each day. This will serve them well as they age and help reduce the impact of arthritis or neuropathy on their mobility. Buy in bulk. Purchasing food and supplies in bulk can save you money over time. Unless you're feeding your dog organic quail eggs and duck heads or something like that, that stuff may not scale. Consider pet insurance. A good insurance plan can and will help you cover unexpected medical expenses. I generally recommend insurance unless you have ready access to $10,000 or more liquid cash set aside at all times. Not everybody has that. Short of that, a real intensive pet emergency might create a financial crunch if the time comes. Again, I hope it doesn't. And finally here, grooming. Nail trims, haircuts, and baths can all be done at home so long as your dog's breed doesn't have some unique maintenance requirement to their coat or something. Learning to groom your pet at home will save a lot on professional grooming costs. I know I've probably saved hundreds of dollars over the years by grooming Bernie myself. And there you have it, guys. The real cost of owning a pet, while it's a big responsibility, the return on that investment is a loving companion, and you can't put a price tag on that, as it turns out. Guys, I'd love to hear your experience as well. What surprised you the most about owning a pet? Leave a comment below letting me know. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to DVM Cellini, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a tip. Follow me on Instagram as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.